"Daddy, I've got a Christmas surprise," the little girl exclaimed, pointing to the Apache Widow Part 1. The rifle shot cracked across the frozen valley before Jake Patterson could even dismount. His daughter Lucy's scream cut through the December air as a second bullet splintered the fence post beside her head. Jake threw himself from his horse and dragged the 6-year-old behind the water trough, his heart hammering against his ribs. "Stay down," he whispered, pressing her face against his chest. Another shot punched through the wooden slats above them. Jake's eyes swept the tree line. 3 riders were coming fast down the hillside, their horses kicking up snow and white plumes. "Daddy, I was just trying to help her," Lucy sobbed. She looked so cold. Jake risked a glance over the trough. The woman was still there, 20 yards away near the barn, her dark hair whipping in the wind. She wore traditional Apache clothing, torn and blood-stained. Her hands were bound behind her back with rope. She'd collapsed in their yard sometime during the night. Lucy had found her at dawn while doing her morning chores. The riders were close now. Jake recognized the leader, Cole Brennan, a bounty hunter with a reputation for cruelty. Brennan and his men had been tracking Apache survivors since the army forced most of the tribes onto reservations. This woman was probably a widow, her family killed in one of the countless raids that scarred the territory. "Patterson," Brennan shouted, reining his horse to a stop 30 feet away. "That's government property you're harboring. Hand her over." Jake's hand moved to his revolver. "She's hurt. She needs a doctor." Brennan laughed, a sound like gravel scraping metal. "She needs a rope. Got a bounty on any Apache found off reservation. Dead or alive, makes no difference to me." The woman had managed to sit up. Her dark eyes met Jake's, and he saw no fear there, only defiance. Blood stained the snow beneath her. She'd been shot, probably days ago, and the wound had festered. "I can't let you take her," Jake said. "Then you're breaking territorial law. That makes you an accomplice." Brennan's hand drifted toward his rifle. His 2 companions spread out, flanking the yard. Lucy tugged at Jake's sleeve. "Daddy, please. It's almost Christmas. We can't let them hurt her." Jake's mind raced. His ranch was isolated, 15 miles from the nearest town. His wife had died 2 years ago, leaving him alone to raise Lucy. He couldn't risk a gunfight with his daughter in the crossfire, but he couldn't surrender an injured woman to men who'd kill her for money. "I'm taking her to town," Jake said. "To the marshal. He can sort this out legal." Brennan spat tobacco juice into the snow. "Marshal's 60 miles away in Santa Fe. She'll be dead before you make it. Save us all time and step aside." The woman spoke then, her voice weak but clear. "Let them take me. Save your child." Jake felt Lucy's grip tighten on his arm. The little girl's eyes were wide with tears. He thought of his wife, of the values they'd tried to teach their daughter. Courage, compassion, standing up for those who couldn't stand for themselves. "No," Jake said firmly. "Lucy, get to the house. Move fast and keep low." "I'm not leaving you," Lucy whispered. "Do it now." Jake's voice left no room for argument. Lucy hesitated, then scrambled toward the house, her small boots crunching through the snow. Brennan's smile faded. "Last chance, Patterson. You really want to die for a savage?" Jake stood slowly, his hand steady on his revolver. The morning sun broke through the clouds, casting long shadows across the blood-stained snow. 3 against 1. Not good odds. But some things mattered more than odds. "Her name," Jake said quietly, "probably matters to someone. Just like my daughter's name matters to me. So, yeah, I reckon I do." The silence that followed felt like the moment before lightning strikes. Part 2, Brennan's hand moved toward his rifle, but Jake was faster. His revolver cleared leather in a blur and he fired. Not to kill, but to warn. The bullet kicked up snow between Brennan's horse's hooves. The animal reared and the bounty hunter fought for control, cursing. "Next one goes through flesh," Jake said. "Your choice which kind." The 2 other riders had their weapons half-drawn, frozen in uncertainty. They were hired guns, not gunfighters. Men who preferred easy money to fair fights. Jake could see the calculation in their eyes, weighing the bounty against the risk. From the house, Lucy appeared in the doorway with Jake's Winchester rifle. She couldn't lift it properly, but the sight of her trying made Brennan's companions exchange nervous glances. A child with a rifle was unpredictable, dangerous in ways that had nothing to do with aim. "Clever," Brennan said, steadying his mount. "But you're still outnumbered." And word's going to spread about this. Every lawman and bounty hunter in the territory will know Jake Patterson's harboring renegades. Then they can take it up with me legal, Jake replied. But today, right now, you're leaving my property. The woman tried to stand and collapsed. Jake wanted to help her but couldn't take his eyes off Brennan. The standoff stretched like pulled wire, ready to snap. A sound broke the tension, hoofbeats coming fast from the east road. Everyone turned. A rider emerged from the tree line, pushing his horse hard. As he got closer, Jake recognized the uniform. Army. A young lieutenant with a patrol of 6 soldiers behind him. Brennan's expression darkened. Well now, he muttered. The lieutenant slowed his horse as he took in the scene. His eyes moved from Jake's drawn revolver to Brennan's hired guns to the woman bleeding in the snow. He was young, maybe 25, with sharp, intelligent eyes. Somebody want to explain what's happening here? The lieutenant asked. Brennan spoke first. Army business, Lieutenant. We're collecting a fugitive Apache. This rancher's interfering. The lieutenant dismounted and walked over to the woman. He knelt beside her, studying the rope burns on her wrists and the infected bullet wound in her side. When he looked up, his jaw was tight. Who shot her? Probably got herself shot running from the reservation, Brennan said. The wound's 3, maybe 4 days old, the lieutenant said, and these rope burns are fresh, maybe a few hours. You've been dragging her behind a horse. Brennan shrugged. She kept trying to escape. The lieutenant stood slowly. What's your name, soldier? I'm not Army. Name's Cole Brennan. Private contractor working under territorial authority. Well, Mr. Brennan, I'm Lieutenant Frank Hayes, and I have actual authority here. This woman's going to the Army surgeon at Fort Stanton, not into your custody. Brennan's face reddened. I got legal papers. I don't care if you have a letter from God himself, Hayes said. I'm not letting you kill a wounded woman on Christmas week. These soldiers are witnesses. You want to argue we can ride to Fort Stanton together and discuss it with my commanding officer? Jake watched the calculation play across Brennan's face. The bounty hunter was tough but not stupid. 6 armed soldiers changed everything. After a long moment, Brennan yanked his horse around. This ain't over, Patterson, he said. That's a promise. The 3 riders galloped away, leaving clouds of snow in their wake. Jake finally lowered his revolver, his hand shaking slightly from the adrenaline crash. Lucy ran from the house and wrapped her arms around his waist. Lieutenant Hayes called for his medical corpsman, a stocky man named Danny, who immediately began tending to the woman's wounds. Jake holstered his weapon and approached. Thank you, Lieutenant. That could have gone bad. Hayes nodded. Brennan's a problem. He operates in the gray areas of the law. Technically, he's right that Apache people found off reservation can be detained, but the way he does it crosses lines. He paused. Why'd you stand up to him? Jake glanced at Lucy. My daughter found her this morning, asked if we could help. Seemed like the right thing to do. The woman was conscious now, her dark eyes watching them warily. She spoke in Apache, then switched to broken English. Why help me? You don't know me. Don't need to know you to know wrong from right, Jake said. Danny finished bandaging the wound. She's lost blood and the infection's bad. She needs real medical care, not field dressing. Hayes frowned. Fort Stanton's 2 days' ride in this weather. We're already a day out on patrol. There's a doctor in Red Creek, Jake said. Martin Schultz. He's good, discreet. Town's only 6 hours if we push. Red Creek? Hayes looked uncertain. That's outside my patrol route, but it's inside human decency, Jake said quietly. Lucy tugged at the lieutenant's coat. Please, mister. It's almost Christmas. Jesus help people who were hurt. That's what Mama used to say. Hayes looked at the little girl, then at his men, then at the woman lying in the snow. He sighed. All right, we'll take her to Red Creek. But Patterson, you're coming with us. If Brennan comes back here looking for revenge, your daughter shouldn't be alone. Jake nodded. Lucy, pack supplies for a few days, warm clothes. As Lucy ran to the house, Hayes lowered his voice. You know what you've gotten yourself into? Brennan meant that threat. He's got friends, bad ones. I know, Jake said. But my daughter's watching. Learning what kind of man her father is, that matters more than Brennan. The woman spoke again, her voice stronger. My name is Naichi. My husband and son were killed in raid. I ran. They hunted me like an animal. Well, Naichi, Jake said, you're not an animal. You're a person who needs help, and that's what you're going to get. Within the hour, they had Naichi wrapped in blankets on a travois pulled by one of the army horses. Jake saddled his own mount and helped Lucy up behind him. The patrol formed around them and they headed west toward Red Creek, the December sun climbing higher in a pale blue sky. Part 3. The ride to Red Creek took them through rough country. Snow-covered pines, gave way to rocky canyons where the wind howled like wolves. Lucy pressed against Jake's back, her small arms tight around his waist. Behind them, Naichi lay quiet on the travois, drifting in and out of consciousness as Danny checked on her every hour. Lieutenant Hayes rode beside Jake. "Tell me about Red Creek. I've heard the name but never been there. Small mining town, maybe 200 people. Grew up fast 5 years ago when they found silver in the hills. Dr. Schultz came because his wife had family there. She died of fever last winter, but he stayed. Good man, fair man. Will he help? Some folks get nervous around Apache people, especially after all the violence." Jake thought about that. Martin's from Germany originally. Came here looking for a new start. He understands what it's like to be the outsider. Yeah, he'll help. They stopped at noon near a frozen creek to rest the horses and eat cold rations. Lucy shared her biscuits with Naichi, who managed a weak smile. The woman's fever had gotten worse despite Danny's care. Infection was setting in deeper. "We need to move faster," Danny told Hayes quietly. "Another night in this cold could kill her." Hayes looked at the darkening sky. "Storm's coming. See those clouds?" Jake saw them, heavy and gray, rolling in from the northwest. "We're 3 hours out, maybe less if we push hard. We can make it before the snow hits." One of the soldiers, a weathered sergeant named Bill Hawkins, shook his head. "Those clouds say different. We get caught in a blizzard out here, we're all in trouble." "Then we don't get caught," Jake said. "We ride." Hayes made the call. They remounted and pushed the horses harder, moving through narrow passes where the wind cut like knives. Lucy buried her face against Jake's coat. Naichi's breathing became labored, rattling in her chest. The first snowflakes fell an hour later. Within minutes, the sky opened up and the world disappeared into white chaos. Visibility dropped to barely 10 feet. Hayes ordered the men to tie ropes between horses so no one would get separated. "Can you find the way in this?" Hayes shouted over the wind. Jake squinted into the storm. He'd lived in this territory for 15 years, knew every ridge and valley, but in a blizzard, everything looked the same. Still, he remembered a rocky outcrop that marked the final approach to Red Creek. "There's a formation ahead, looks like a broken tooth. If we can find that, we're close." They pressed on, the horses struggling through deepening snow. Lucy shivered violently despite her thick coat. Jake's face went numb from the cold. Behind them, Nauche had stopped making sounds altogether. "There!" Jake shouted, pointing. Through the swirling snow, a dark shape loomed, the broken tooth outcrop. "Red Creek's just beyond that ridge." They urged the exhausted horses up the slope. The wind tried to push them back, but they fought forward, foot by foot. When they crested the ridge, lights appeared below, the warm glow of windows in the storm. Red Creek sat in a small valley, protected somewhat from the worst of the wind. Jake led them down the main street, past the closed general store and silent saloon, to a 2-story building with a sign that read Schultz Medical Practice. Jake dismounted and pounded on the door. After a moment it opened, and Dr. Martin Schultz stood there in shirt sleeves, a gray-haired man with kind eyes behind wire glasses. "Jake Patterson? What in God's name are you doing out in this storm?" "Need your help, Martin. Got a patient, bad shape." Schultz saw the army patrol, and his expression shifted to professional concern. "Bring them in, quickly." They carried Naichi inside to an examination room. Schultz took one look at the infected wound and started barking orders. "Boil water. Lots of it. I need clean towels, my surgical kit, and someone strong to hold her down." This is going to be painful. For the next 2 hours, Jake and the soldiers waited in the doctor's front room while Schultz worked. Lucy fell asleep in a chair wrapped in a borrowed blanket. The storm raged outside, rattling the windows. Finally, Schultz emerged, wiping blood from his hands. He looked exhausted. "She'll live, but it was close. The bullet's out, infection's drained. She needs rest and proper care. A few more hours and we'd have been too late." Hayes stood. "Can she travel?" "We need to get her to Fort Stanton eventually. Not for at least a week. Maybe 2. She's too weak. We can't stay that long," Hayes said. "My patrol's already off route." Jake spoke up. "Leave her with me. I'll make sure she's cared for. Once she's strong enough, I'll bring her to the fort myself." Schultz raised an eyebrow. "You understand what you're offering? The responsibility?" "I do." Hayes considered. "Patterson, you're already on Brennan's list. Taking responsibility for her custody puts a bigger target on your back." "Bigger than what?" "He already threatened me. At least this way, Naichi gets the care she needs." One of the soldiers, a young private named Charlie, cleared his throat. Sir, if I may, we all saw what Brennan was doing, dragging her behind his horse like an animal. If Patterson's willing to stand up for what's right, seems like we should support that. The other soldiers murmured agreement. Sergeant Hawkins nodded. The boy's right, Lieutenant. Some things matter more than regulations. Hayes rubbed his face tiredly. But I'm filing a report stating that Naichi is under provisional custody pending medical recovery. That gives you legal cover, Patterson. Anyone comes asking, you show them my written orders. Appreciate that. Schultz offered his spare rooms for the night. The storm made travel impossible anyway. They settled in, soldiers bedding down in the front room, while Jake and Lucy took a small bedroom upstairs. Before sleeping, Jake checked on Naichi. She was awake, her fever broken. You keep saving me, she said softly. Why? Jake pulled up a chair. My daughter asked me to help. Seemed like reason enough. Your daughter has a good heart, like her father. Her mother's influence, mostly. She was the good one in our family. My son was 6, same age as your Lucy. He loved horses, wanted to be a great rider like his father. Her voice broke. They killed him because he tried to run. Shot him in the back. Jake felt something twist in his chest. He thought of Lucy, of how fragile life was, how quickly it could be stolen. I'm sorry. No child should die that way. No child should die anyway, but they do. This land is soaked with blood. Apache blood, white blood, Mexican blood, all the same color when it hits the ground. They sat in silence for a while. Outside, the storm began to ease. Finally, Naichi spoke again. The men who killed my family, they wore uniforms. Not bounty hunters. Soldiers. Jake tensed. Hayes and his men aren't those soldiers. I know. I see difference. But your army made this happen. Forced my people onto land that cannot feed us. When we hunt to survive, they call us criminals. And I don't have answers for that. I'm just a rancher trying to raise his daughter right. Sometimes that is enough, Naiche said. Small kindness in cruel world. Thank you, Jake Patterson. When I am strong, I will repay this debt. No debt, Jake said. Just get well. Part 4. The storm cleared by morning but left 3 feet of fresh snow. Red Creek was cut off from the outside world until the roads could be cleared. Lieutenant Hayes and his patrol spent 2 days helping the town dig out while Jake and Lucy stayed at the doctor's house, helping care for Naishi. Lucy took to the Apache woman immediately, bringing her meals and reading to her from the few books the doctor owned. Naichi taught Lucy words in the Apache language and showed her how to braid hair in traditional patterns. Jake watched his daughter laugh for the first time since her mother died, and something in his heart both ached and healed. On the 3rd day, a rider made it through from the east. He brought news that sent a chill through Jake, worse than any blizzard. Cole Brennan had filed formal complaints with the territorial governor, claiming Jake Patterson was harboring a fugitive and had threatened law enforcement officers. Warrants were being prepared. How long before they come? Jake asked Hayes. Week, maybe 2. Depends on the weather and how motivated the territorial marshal is. But they will come. Dr. Schultz poured coffee with steady hands. This is political now. The governor's under pressure to show he's tough on the Apache question. He'll use Naiche as an example. Even though she's done nothing wrong? Lucy asked. She'd been listening from the doorway. Especially because she's done nothing wrong, Schultz said gently. That's how these things work sometimes, child. Naichi was strong enough to sit up now. The infection was gone and her wound was healing cleanly. She looked at Jake with dark, serious eyes. I should go. Leave you out of this. You're not strong enough to travel yet, Jake said. Strong enough to save your family from trouble I brought. You didn't bring the trouble. Men like Brennan did. And men like the governor who care more about politics than justice. Hayes set down his cup. There might be a way through this. If I take Naichi into Army custody officially, not as a prisoner but as a witness, I can keep her at Fort Stanton under protection. The territorial government would have to go through military channels to get her, which would take time. Time for what? Jake asked. For me to get word to people who might help. There's a lawyer in Santa Fe, a woman named Catherine Bright. She's been fighting for Apache rights, trying to get the government to honor treaty obligations. With Naichi as a witness to atrocities, Catherine might build a case. Fighting in court? Naichi shook her head. White man's justice does not apply to Apache people. It should, Hayes said firmly. That's the point. The law's supposed to protect everyone, not just some people. Over the next few days, they debated and planned. Jake knew that getting involved deeper meant risking everything, his ranch, his freedom, maybe even Lucy's safety. But every time he considered backing away, He'd see his daughter sitting with Naichi, learning, laughing, showing the kind of compassion his wife would have been proud of. On the 6th day, they received another visitor. A tall man in expensive clothes rode into town on a fine black horse. He introduced himself as Walter Pierce, personal representative of the territorial governor. "I'm here to resolve this situation peacefully," Pierce said, sitting in Schultz's front room. His smile was polished, but his eyes were cold. "The governor understands that emotions run high on all sides. He's prepared to offer a compromise." "What kind of compromise?" Jake asked warily. "The Apache woman receives medical care, as she has. Once healthy, she returns to the reservation under military escort. No charges filed against anyone. The situation ends quietly." "And if she doesn't want to return to the reservation?" Pierce's smile never wavered. "Then we have a problem. See, the governor's facing pressure from voters who want order restored. If he appears weak on enforcement, he loses support. But if he appears cruel, he loses different support. He needs this to go away cleanly." "So Naichi's fate is about his political career?" "Everything's about politics, Mr. Patterson. The sooner you understand that, the better." Naiche appeared in the doorway, still weak but standing on her own. "I will go back to reservation. I do not wish for Jake and his daughter to suffer for my sake." "No," Lucy said suddenly. Everyone turned to look at the little girl. "That's not fair. She didn't do anything wrong." Pierce regarded Lucy with amusement. "Life isn't fair, child. It's about finding solutions everyone can live with." "You mean solutions powerful people can live with," Jake said. "While people like Naichi have no choice, she has a choice. Return to the reservation or face arrest. Those are choices." Lieutenant Hayes stood. "I take her into military custody as planned. She testifies about the abuses she witnessed. We follow proper legal procedure." Pierce's expression hardened. "The governor won't allow that. It opens questions he doesn't want opened. Soldiers killing Apache civilians, bounty hunters operating outside the law, the whole mess becomes public." "You really want that, Lieutenant?" "If that's what justice requires, yes. Then you're naive. The army will transfer you to some forgotten outpost. Your career will stall, and the Apache woman will still end up back on the reservation, or worse." The room fell silent. Jake looked at each face. Hayes struggling with duty and conscience, Naiche resigned to her fate, Lucy fighting tears, Dr. Schultz watching with sad, knowing eyes. "There's a fourth option?" Jake said slowly. Everyone looked at him. "She disappears. We say she died from her wounds. Dr. Schultz confirms it. We bury an empty coffin if we have to. Meanwhile, she goes somewhere safe, somewhere she can live without looking over her shoulder." "That's fraud," Pierce said. "Criminal conspiracy." "No, it's mercy. It's giving one woman a chance at a life." "What's criminal is a system that gives her no chance at all." Hayes shook his head. "Patterson, I can't be part of falsifying military records." "Then don't be. Leave tomorrow with your patrol. Whatever happens after that, you knew nothing about." Pierce stood. "I came here in good faith with a reasonable solution." "You're talking about defying territorial law. The consequences will be severe." "The consequences of doing nothing are worse," Jake said, "at least in my daughter's eyes. And that matters to me more than your governor's political problems." Pierce's pleasant mask slipped. "You're making a serious mistake. Wouldn't be my first. Probably won't be my last." After Pierce left, they sat in heavy silence. Finally, Naichi spoke. "You would do this? Risk everything?" "Already risked everything when I pulled my gun on Brennan. Might as well see it through." "Where would I go?" Dr. Schultz cleared his throat. "I have a sister in San Francisco. She's a widow. Runs a boarding house. She's not fond of government authority, and she asks few questions. If Naichi could make it there, she'd have a chance. San Francisco's 1,000 miles away," Hayes said. "Further from here the better," Jake replied. "Question is, how do we get her there?" Lucy tugged Jake's sleeve. "The railway. It goes through Santa Fe. We could take her there, put her on a train." "Smart girl," Schultz said. "But she'd need papers, a new identity, and money for passage." "I have money," Jake said. "Ranch has been profitable. Not rich, but enough." Hayes paced the room. "If I'm going to claim ignorance, I need to actually be ignorant. I'm leaving at first light with my patrol. Whatever you people do after that is your business." He looked at Jake. "But Patterson, understand what you're doing. This won't end with Naichi getting away. Brennan will come for you. The territorial marshal will come for you. Your life as you knew it is over. My life as I knew it ended when my wife died, Jake said quietly. I've been moving through the days since then, trying to be the father Lucy needs. This, helping Naichi, it's the first thing in 2 years that feels like living instead of just surviving. Part 5, they had 5 days to prepare while Naichi regained her strength. Dr. Schultz created false documents identifying her as Maria Vasquez, a Mexican immigrant traveling to California. He'd done similar work during the Civil War, helping escaped slaves reach freedom, and his skills hadn't diminished. Jake taught Naichi basic Spanish phrases and helped her practice the story they'd created. Lucy donated her mother's old dresses, altering them to fit. Looking in the mirror, Naichi barely recognized herself in the white woman's clothing, with her hair pinned up under a hat. I feel like ghost of person I'm not, she said. You're still you, Lucy assured her, just wearing a costume, like in a play. On the 6th morning, Jake hitched his wagon and they left Red Creek before dawn. Dr. Schultz came with them, saying he needed to visit his sister anyway. The roads were clearer now. Packed snow turned to icy ruts. They made good time toward Santa Fe. They were 2 hours out when Jake saw riders behind them. 5 men, moving fast. His stomach dropped. Company, he said quietly. Schultz turned. Can you tell who? Jake squinted against the glare of sun on snow. And friends. They pushed the horses harder, but the wagon was slower than the mounted pursuers. Within 20 minutes, Brennan and his men had closed the distance. They spread out, surrounding the wagon, forcing Jake to stop. Brennan grinned, showing tobacco-stained teeth. Well now, heard an interesting rumor. Said the Apache woman died. But that coffin they buried felt mighty light when we dug it up. Jake's hand moved toward his rifle, but 2 of Brennan's men already had weapons drawn. Smart choice is to stay still, Brennan said. Now, have the woman step out. There's no woman here except my daughter, Jake said. Brennan rode closer and yanked the canvas covering off the wagon bed. Naichi sat there dressed in her Mexican disguise, but Brennan wasn't fooled. Well, Miss Vasquez, funny how you look exactly like the Apache widow I've been tracking. You're mistaken, Schultz said. This is my niece. Doctor, I respect your medical skills, but your lying needs work. Brennan gestured, and one of his men grabbed Naichi, dragging her from the wagon. She didn't fight, didn't make a sound. Lucy screamed and tried to jump down, but Jake held her back. Please, Jake said. You've got what you want. Leave us alone. Can't do that. See, you made me look bad, Patterson. Made me dig up an empty grave in front of witnesses. My reputation's damaged, so I need to send a message about what happens to people who interfere with my work. One of Brennan's men pulled out a rope. The implication was clear. Jake's blood went cold. You can't hang her. There's no trial, no judge. Bounty says dead or alive. I choose dead, saves me hauling her back. Jake reached for his rifle, but a gun barrel pressed against his temple. Don't, a voice said. Lucy was crying, pulling at Jake's coat. Naichi stood calmly, looking at Jake with steady eyes. It's all right, she said softly. You tried. Then shots rang out. For a confused second, Jake thought Brennan had shot Naichi. But the bounty hunter was toppling from his horse, blood blooming on his shoulder. His men spun, confused, as more shots cracked from the tree line. Riders burst from the forest, a dozen Apache warriors on painted horses. They hit Brennan's men like a storm, surrounding them, weapons drawn. The bounty hunter's horses panicked. One man tried to run, and an arrow punched through his hat, making him freeze. An older Apache man, his face lined with scars and wisdom, rode forward. He spoke to Naichi in their language. She answered, her voice breaking with emotion. The old man nodded and turned to Jake. She tells me you helped her, protected her when others would kill. His English was heavily accented but clear. She tells me your daughter has kind heart. Who are you? Jake managed. I am Cochetta. I was friend to Naichi's husband. When she did not return to our hidden camp, we came looking. His eyes moved to Brennan, still clutching his bleeding shoulder. This man is known to us. He has killed many of our people, murdered children. Brennan tried to speak, but Cochetta silenced him with a look. We could kill you all now, Cochetta said to the bounty hunters. Would be justice. But Naichi says you, Patterson, showed mercy. So I will show mercy. Once. He gestured, and his warriors bound the bounty hunters with their own ropes, stripping them of weapons and horses. You walk back to Red Creek. Tell everyone what happened here. Tell them Apache people remember kindness and remember cruelty. Tell them we are not animals to be hunted. Brennan and his men were forced to start walking, wounded and humiliated. The Apache warriors melted back into the forest as quickly as they'd appeared, taking the captured horses with them. Only Cochetta remained. Naichi cannot stay with us, he said sadly. Our camp is temporary. Army will find us soon. She must go to your San Francisco. You knew about that? Jake asked. We have been watching. We see much. Cochetta pulled the leather pouch from his saddle and handed it to Naichi. This was your husband's. He would want you to have it. Naichi opened the pouch. Inside was a silver medallion on a chain. Intricate Apache designs worked into the metal. Tears ran down her face as she held it. Cochetta looked at Lucy. You remind me of my granddaughter. Same brave spirit. You will grow to be a strong woman. He reached into another pouch and pulled out a small carved wooden horse. Gift for you. My grandson made it. He's gone now, but his work lives on.
Lucy took the horse with trembling hands.
Thank you. Cochetta turned his horse. Go quickly. More men will come.
But you have given us hope, shown us not all white people are enemies.
That matters. He raised his hand in farewell and rode into the trees. They reached Santa Fe 2 days later without further incident. Dr. Schultz had telegraphed his sister, who confirmed she'd accept Maria Vasquez as a boarder. At the railway station, they bought Naichi a ticket on the westbound train. The departure time came too quickly. Naichi stood on the platform in her disguise, looking at Jake and Lucy. I have no words for what you've done. You don't need words, Jake said. Just live well. That's thanks enough. Naichi knelt in front of Lucy. You are special, child. Do not let this world make you hard. Keep your soft heart. That is your strength. Lucy hugged her fiercely. Will we ever see you again? Who can say? The world is a strange place, but I will never forget you. The train whistle blew. Naichi climbed aboard and found a window seat. As the train pulled away, she pressed her hand against the glass. Lucy waved until the train disappeared into the distance. On the ride back to Red Creek, Lucy was quiet for a long time. Finally, she spoke. Daddy, did we do the right thing? Jake thought about that. We did what we believed was right. Sometimes that's all you can do. Are we in trouble? Probably. But some trouble's worth having. They stopped at the same spot where Cochetta's warriors had rescued them. The snow was already covering the tracks and evidence of what had happened. Jake looked at his daughter, at the wooden horse she clutched, at the way the winter sun caught in her hair so much like her mother's. Lucy, what you did, pushing me to help Naichi, that took courage. I'm proud of you. Mama would have helped her too, wouldn't she? Without hesitation. Then we did the right thing. When they arrived back at the ranch, Jake found a package waiting on his porch. Inside was a letter from Lieutenant Hayes and his official report, which made no mention of Naichi's survival or Jake's involvement. There was also a note from Catherine Bright, the lawyer in Santa Fe, offering her services if needed. Life went on. Winter turned to spring. Territorial marshals came asking questions, but found no evidence of wrongdoing. Brennan disappeared, his reputation ruined, hunted by the same Apache warriors he'd once hunted. The governor's attention moved to other political crises. Jake received a letter postmarked San Francisco 3 months later. It was brief. I am safe. I work in your doctor's sister's boarding house. The ocean is beautiful. Thank you for giving me a chance to see it. Your friend Maria. Lucy kept the carved horse on her bedside table. On quiet evenings, she'd ask Jake to tell her again the story of how they'd helped Naichi. He'd tell it, watching his daughter's eyes shine with the memory of doing something difficult and right. Years later, when Lucy was grown with children of her own, she'd tell them the same story. About a Christmas when a little girl found a woman in need, about a father who chose compassion over fear, about the moment she learned that courage means standing up for others even when it costs you everything. The wooden horse still sat on her shelf, a reminder that kindness echoes across generations, that small acts of mercy can ripple outward in ways we never see, and that sometimes the greatest gift you can give isn't wrapped in paper and ribbons, but in the simple, profound choice to see someone else's humanity and refuse to look away.